It is June 30th, it is 2011, and this is Day 9 Daily number 316. I'm happy, I'm smiling. First of all, I recently turned 25. I turned 25 on Monday, the best day of the week. On June 27th, I celebrated not only my birthday, but also the birthday of Tobey Maguire and Helen Keller. I'm not kidding. Go look it up. Oh, it was what a great day. I'm going to tell you about it in a sec. I wanted to let you know that very many exciting things are happening. The most exciting of all is that I don't have to get on a plane for about a month and a half, I think. I hope I said that right. Now I'm going to end up in a plane in like 2 weeks or something terrible. I hate planes. Ugh, miserable. Although I did have a wonderful time in Las Vegas recently, and in DreamHack, and in South Korea, and in Columbus, and all the other wonderful places. I don't like planes, but now I'm in town for the month of July, which means that I will be making so many freaking... Lower my chair. I'm going to be making so many dailies. It's going to be absurd. It's pretty much just going to be 5 a week till the end of time. The only thing that might get in the way of things is the North American Star League Finals coming up in Ontario, California, on July 8th to 10th, that I will be casting. How awesome. I'll be casting that, so go to that, nasl.tv. Let me tell you about my birthday. Okay, so I got food poisoning. I got food poisoning on my birthday. I spent almost the whole time puking, right? Like, just over the toilet like a chicken on a rotisserie, just like, oh, it was like terrible. But I don't mind throwing up. I really don't. It's not a big deal. Like, well, I guess 70% of me doesn't like it, but 30% of me is a dragon soaring over the landscape. Well, the thing about when you're ill is that you feel terrible leading right up to it, but once it's over, you feel great. You feel empowered. Oh, it's better than a dose of caffeine. But I think most of you probably just prefer the caffeine. I got food poisoning from Del Taco because I know how to live it up, and oh my god, it was amazing. I will say, though, on Saturday night, I had a $330 meal in Las Vegas. $330. It was a 17-course meal. 17! All the courses were so small, it was like half of one bite of a steak. They just cut it off, put it on a plate, served it to you, threw the rest away or something, I don't even know. And it was this incredibly delicious, delectable morsel of food. It was so... Oh, it was so good. I'm drooling right now. They even had this, like, raspberry rose petal with, like, raspberry jelly with, like, another real rose petal on top. And I kid you not, they had a marble cast of the chef's hand, and that was the plate. There was a marble hand with like... less than a bite-sized bite of Snickers worth of raspberry jelly air stuff. And it was served on a freaking marble hand. It was unbelievable. Far and away, the highlight of the trip is a poker story, okay? It's gonna have to be a poker story, and I'm not even part of it, right? It is my dear friend Eric. My dear friend Eric, who, as I always say, does the hard stuff in the daily. He's the one who uploads your videos. At DreamHack, the longest amount of time it went from a game being done to a game being uploaded was 4 hours. That is because Eric stayed up all night in America while I was in Sweden, downloading, cutting, and uploading. Woo! So he's sitting poker, he's like playing next to me. And Eric never plays any hands ever. He does not play any hands. He'll play like a hand an hour. And even if he gets pocket aces twice in 1 hour, he's like, no, I just better be a little more conservative and wait until I get aces when I'm not under quota. He never plays a hand like ever. And he's just sitting there sort of quietly. Eric's a fairly mild-mannered person. He's just sort of quietly sitting there, yeah, just listening. I'm talking and chatting and being an idiot. And Eric's very patiently sitting there folding and folding and checking and folding and folding and getting aces. No, I'll wait for another pair of aces and folding them. And then the following happens. Eric gets involved in the hand. All right, Eric gets involved in this hand, and literally the exact opposite of what I think is going on is what's going on throughout this whole hand. I just want to throw that out there. If you don't understand poker, just pause right now and look up the rules because you're not going to care. If you do play poker, it's fine. So what happens is it's an ace and a couple of hearts right there, right? It's a couple of hearts and an ace. And no one bets except for this guy who just does not understand how the game of poker at all works. So he makes a little bet, and Eric, see, you don't actually have to understand the rules now I think of it because it's about the emotion. Eric, when he bets, Eric gets all shifty. He's shifting in his chair. I mean, a lot of people watch the movies and they're like, you have to make sure you don't have any tells, you know. It doesn't matter at all. It's like saying, oh, I need to play Starcraft. Isn't it true that I need to undergo surgery to become Korean to play it well? No, you don't. Like, it helps, but you don't need it. Right? So Eric's there, but he's like, shit, and I'm like, okay, Eric, don't shift uncontrollably, nervously. Eric, again, very quiet, mild mannered, going, So he decides he's going to call. But the thing is, there is an entire process to putting the chips in the pot that somehow is extended by 3 to 4 minutes when Eric is in the hand. And let me explain it to you. So what you have chips and they're stacked. It's not like flat dollar bills that are like easy to like pick up in bunches. When you need to push a bunch of chips in, normally what you do is you make a big vertical stack and you push it in. But if you need to count them, you make 2 little stacks next to each other, or maybe 3 stacks, and you kind of then stack them back up and push them in. Eric makes stacks of 2. So he puts 2 little chips here, and then he puts 2 little chips here, and then 2 little chips, and 2 little chips, and 2 little chips, and there's a little chip pair. It's taking up like the whole table. He's like counting all these little chips out. And then, okay, so he decides to call. You know what happens? The turn is an ace of hearts. So I'm like, well, since Eric folds aces most of the time, he probably has an incredible hand. At the very least, a flush. Definitely either 4 of a kind or better. You know, something like that. So Eric, when the ace of hearts come down, Eric goes, huh, okay. Like he's talking to the cards. Like, who are you talking to, Eric? So Eric checks, the other guy makes a bet, and Eric makes a big raise. If someone folds aces twice an hour and makes a big raise, upon being shiftier than the guiltiest person in a Mickey Mouse cartoon you've ever seen, then he probably has a good hand, right? Eric raises. Guy thinks forever and calls. And the river is another 4. So it's ace 4, whatever, with 3 hearts. And I'm like, oh, if Eric had a flush, he's doomed. Because the other guy could have a full house, right? It's tragedy. It's the most miserable, terrible thing ever. I'm worried. Eric's shifting there. And this is, I think, my favorite part of the whole thing. The guy has like $20 left. He has 4 red chips, 4. Eric counts out like $150 worth of chips, 2 at a time. Again, 2 at a time, taking up the whole expanse of the table. He's like bumping shoulders with me and the other person who's right. He's taking up the whole space of the table to bet more money than the guy has by a long shot, right? So the guy's like, all right, I call. And Eric, I thought Eric got screwed. I thought Eric was going to flip over flush. Eric turns over an ace, so Eric has a full house. And his opponent turns over a flush. So I think, what is actually going on? I can't believe either of them played it this way. Regardless, what happens is Eric, very mild-mannered, very quiet generally, apparently has consumed about 10 Coronas. Unbeknownst to me, just quietly, just getting one Corona after another. And when Eric sees the other guy's cards, quiet, mild-mannered Eric says, oh, you had the flush? Damn it! Oh, damn it! And I'm like, Eric, you have a full house. You win the pot. And he's like, what? Oh, did the board pair? Yes! The guy's 5 feet away, or 2 meters for your European folks. He's like right there. And Eric's like, yeah! I won! Yes! I didn't know I won! Alright! Woo! Yeah! And I'm like, Eric, he's there. He's right there, Eric. And the guy's like getting really mad, and Eric Gilly says, I've never knocked anyone off a table before. He's trying to high-five me. I'm like, oh my god, high-five me. This is awesome, but I don't want to walk out of the casino with you. So that was great. So that was wonderful, and Eric proceeded to just talk about it for 30 minutes before we left and got Del Taco, where I got food poisoning, which brings me to right now, the Day 9 Daily. Again, if you don't play poker, you should, because that story is awesome. Poker is nothing more than a story factory, as we are going to see today, as I'm going to share with you and regale you the story of Ganzi versus whoever, Genius. There we go. All right. Let's talk about today's topic. That was a long little intro, but you know what? It's my birthday, so, well, it was. Whatever. I still have birthday power. So, this is something I sort of noticed in terms of reflecting upon the daily in my little absence where the mono battles were being uploaded. I was realizing that, for the most part, I do 2 broad little categories that a lot. One of them is here is a good style of play. There you go. Examples of this would be the Steal This Build series, where I said, hey, let's examine this style of play. Okay, isn't that style of play great? Now go do it. You hear me talk a lot about guiding principles, saying, and rearrangements of builds, you know, saying like, oh yeah, you just want to make sure you get to 3 barracks and a starport, that sort of thing. So that way, if at any point you don't know what to do, you always kind of know where you want to go. And what I end up talking about a lot is having a plan and then being sort of thrown off it and kind of peeling back. Definitely a very, very important skill to actually have. Another category is a lot of the getting thrown off examples where, you know, I'll say things like, okay, now this guy, he got rushed really hard. How do we deal with this weird, unusual circumstance? Today we're going to look at 3 games, and 2 of them are going to be the main focus of the topic, which is just general decision-making that you'd make in a game based upon something you would see, like a huge change, how to exploit something someone's doing. In other words, you know, here a simple example would be something like, there is no way he can get detection up in time, so I am just going to go ahead and go for a Banshee right now and take him down. We're going to see a big, big, big example of this coming up. But I wanted to first, in case that sounds weird, I want to look at a very simple game between Ganzi and Genius. This is on, this is on Terminus. Ganzi is spawning here in the southern position. His opponent is going to spawn here at the right. Everything's going great. And what we're actually going to note is that throughout this early portion of the game, they're really just not going to be doing very much at all, right? They're just going to be doing their usual building setups. They're going to be expanding. I'm actually going to come to Ganzi's viewpoint. We're going to go through this really fast. Whoa, not his first-person point of view. So it's a 3 barracks early expand. There's a couple of cool things that are going to happen, like he goes for a pretty early engineering bay. There it is. He goes for a pretty typically timed factory. I mean, oops, 2 tech labs. He's getting a reactor. He's getting a reactor on the factory to give to the starport. I mean, this is pretty typical stuff. He held a watchtower for like 2 seconds. This is an example of a build that Ganzi's just doing. This is a build that he's just doing. If you wanted to get this game and copy it, that's great. Go to sc2rep.com. Copy it, steal it. You'll be in good shape.
Research complete.
All right, we see he's doing some more goody goodness with his harassment. He's moving around doing all this stuff. This is a style of play that I've done many dailies on, where I'll just be like, oh yeah, now Ganzi, look at how he's using these medevacs to distract his opponent, dropping here just to kill a pylon. He's going to go over here and drop. But this sort of thing is a very small tweak, but it's still not that noteworthy, really. He's going to scan, he sees a Colossus. Alright, cool. So again, the 2 kinds of dailies that we've done lots of is you don't get thrown off at all, again, which is what we're looking at, or you get completely, totally messed up and you don't know what to do. It's very, very simple, though. This is, oh, I see a Colossus, and what's the intuitive response? Dum-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-dum. He's going to build a starport, so this will allow him to get 2 Vikings at a time. Look at him producing 2 Vikings at a time. He's doing a drop. Nothing that out of the ordinary. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm watching this at ×4 because it's just so boring and dry. He's expanding when he wants to. He's getting these upgrades when he wants to. He's not getting interrupted at all. This is a very clean, clear-cut decision-making kind of game, no big variation. And it's so important, honestly, that you have this as a fundamental part of your gameplay. Even though I emphasize this in a lot of dailies, I'll still emphasize it in this one. If you don't have this as the core underlying muscle to your gameplay, you're gonna die. You're gonna lose a lot of games. To describe Ganzi's overall setup, it's pretty straightforward. He's gonna have an expansion. He's gonna have 3 barracks, and if he sees some fast Colossus, he's gonna get 2 starport. If he doesn't see a fast Colossus, he's probably gonna get some more barracks. I mean, this is pretty basic stuff, where you basically a lot of barracks units, a lot of Vikings, a lot of Marauders, a lot of medevacs. Good, good, great! Everyone understands everything I say. You need to have one of these, because if you're trying to figure out, is Vikings a good unit? Is Marauders a good unit? This is not so good. So I'll give you the very least the satisfaction of watching Ganzi just scan, come in here for a clean kill. Nothing was interrupted. Great examples of dailies where I've looked at builds like this would be the simplest daily in the world, as I entitled it. Hasuobs versus some Terran guy. And we see, oh yes, control going exactly the way control should go. Yes! Alright, good. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at another game, which is, I think, an example of something very, very exciting that's happening in games right now. I have to move the camera away. I have to blow my nose. I'm going to tell you about this exciting thing that's going to go on in esports. Great. Welcome back. There's this very exciting thing that's finally starting to happen in Starcraft II. It took like a year, seriously, like a year for it to get to this point, which is where people finally get the overall good, solid basics of what they're supposed to be doing, and they can macro pretty well. Whew, thank God that comes up, because now some really interesting things can happen where you can make big in-game decisions. Big strategic in-game decisions. And I'm going to throw some definitions at you just to make sure that we all have a good, clear sense of what I'm referring to. An in-game tactical decision would be something like, oh my gosh, all the stalkers are over there, so I can drop his main right now. It's kind of like how your units are moving around. I always like to say that a tactic is something you can see from start to finish within like a 30-second period. Strategy is the overarching start-to-finish structure of what you're doing, specifically in terms of resources. Like, I'm going to make a lot of gas-heavy units, spend my minerals on expanding, and then once I have that, I'm going to do this composition of units. What did I just describe? I'm going to go 3-gate, mainly sentries, until I expand, and then transition into stalkers. Like, it's your overall strategy of what's going on. Now that we have a good sense of what's going on, we can make big strategic decisions in the middle where we can skew our composition one way or another, change what buildings we're going to be making throughout the game, and talk about it as though there's all these decisions going on, but again, it's sort of under this assumption that people are making good macro and overall gameplay decisions. Let's take a look at this game. Very simple game on Metalopolis, and then we'll finish up with one on Tal'Darim Altar. We got our good friends Ganzi, who's up here as the Terran, and then we have MVP Genius, which, as you can clearly read, especially if you're in America, that's who he is on the right. And let's take a look at this game in terms of these in-game decisions that you can make. And in particular, about some of the decisions that you would and wouldn't be worrying about at certain points in time. We're going to do it for both players. No particular focus on one player or the other. We did Ganzi last game because he won, and it was clean and simple and sexy. But we see our Protoss buddy. Oh, he's going to be early expanding. In the current time being, we'll just talk about what Ganzi's going to be doing because I just decided to. He'll be building his orbital command after his barracks. Per usual, he's building his second barracks before his first supply depot because he'll be building a reactor. This is one of my favorite timings. Normally, you have to build the second supply depot first. You have to go, tech lab add-on, second supply depot, and then another barracks. But if you go for a reactor, it takes so long that this isn't building for a long time. Nice little thing to sneak in. And then we're going to see the second supply depot start down in just a moment. Bam, there it is. All right. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about some strategic decision-making that happens before the game. This is this opening that we are seeing our good friend, MVP Genius, do. What he is going to do is he's actually building, after he's early expanded, he's building this second gateway. Before he builds a cybernetics core, this actually looks a little bit like an unusual play. But the fact is that we've seen a lot of Terran players like MMA do this weird, funky opening where he will get 3 barracks really quick if he sees you early expand, and will straight up kill you if you end up early expanding. He'll just straight up kill you. Has done this a lot of times on Crevasse. That's a great example of an in-game strategic choice. MMA has this huge early expand. He's going to go barracks and orbital command, then he's going to get another expansion, and then he's going to transition into whatever plan. But in the circumstance where he sees you early expanding, he is going to go ahead and just throw down 2 barracks before he even takes his expansion command center and kill you. Technically, you can make that choice before the game. It's an example of, still though, a big deviation path that's going on. We're going to see an even stronger example here where there's actually going to be this kind of, I'm in a situation I might not normally be up in. What do I do? But either way, this is a good, switch camera, damn it, this is a good in-game decision, or a good opening decision by Ganzi, by MVP Genius. Holy crap, we gotta try that again. This is a good opening decision by MVP Genius against his opponent Ganzi. And Ganzi is doing one of the more solid openings for Terran. It went out of style for a bit, but players have recently just begun doing it a lot with a ton more aggression, and it's gotten quite a bit more effective. So here we see this early expand. I'll back it up just a smidge. If for some reason, if you are Protoss and you start to see some kind of aggression play, like let's say for instance you're playing against MMA and you see a bunch of barracks get thrown down, you can promptly build 2 zealots. And then your superior zealot numbers combined with this eventual stalker will very, very easily help you through. But hey, since we don't see this kind of all-in coming, voila! We're going to be building 2 stalkers at a time. There's the simulator going down now for Mr. Genius. Won't be fast-forwarding the game much longer at this point, or much more at this point, because the game's actually not too long. So here's the push that's made this very, very strong. You literally just get a Marauder and go attack him. It's quite powerful, especially because he won't have that many stalkers. You can almost always retreat quite effectively. And there's the Warp Gate upgrade, a 3rd gateway going down. And you'll notice this is an overall look to an early expand. So we have the 2 assimilators, the 3 gateways, the expand, and we're going to be building a lot of sentries. Now, traditionally, I talk a lot about looks. And it's really important, again, that you have these looks there. They are your foundations to play. But, especially as you're getting up into the Masters League, and I can't remember what comes before Masters, if it's Platinum or Diamond. Oh, that's not a good thing to blank out on. I want to say it's Diamond. No. Yeah. Yes. Of course. I can't believe I forgot that. It's awesome. As you get into the Diamond and the Masters League up there, I'm actually stopping. I feel like there's one in between. I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to shut up. As you're getting into these higher leagues, Masters and thereabouts, having these looks is really what brings you up. Having these points in play that you're always sort of going to. Having things like a 3 gateway with 2 assimilator while you're expanding. That's such a key core thing to have going on. Such an important component. And we're going to see this push advance. Very smartly, MVP is just going to pull very far back. He's going to dish out an extra chrono boost. Ganzi sees that he can't break it, so he will go ahead and retreat. Ganzi with a very early stim upgrade. And Ganzi's actually getting this stim because he's going to gear up for a crazy fast early push. A crazy aggro push. This could be inspired at the time. This could be pre-planned. Either way, it is something that we're not going to spend too much time focusing on. I'm only going to tell you that it is coming up. So here he is gathering his forces together, and there MVP is gathering his defensive mix together. Building Zealots and Stalkers, those are the units that you really want to deal with super early pressure. Like super fast pressure. To do any sort of early eventual jazz, you probably want more sentries. But now all of a sudden we're seeing Ganzi do this kind of weird push. And once we see the second bunker get started, we're going to pause. Now, in this game, as well as the next game we're going to watch, we see an attack where this is the kind of thing that, in experience, either wins you the game right there or goes so badly you're in tears and you lose the game immediately. So here, either these bunkers finish, Protoss botches the attack, and Terran gets the easy bomb on the Nexus and wins. Or these bunkers end up being a huge waste. Terran loses all these SCVs and all these units and dies fairly quickly to an attack. But watch how this ends up going. We're actually going to slow down to normal. Slowing down to normal. Actually, we're going to just go back to regular game speed. We see that Protoss is going to warp in a good amount of units right at the last second. He's trying to work around. We're seeing that all the SCVs get picked off quite quickly. So these bunkers essentially function as deadweights. It doesn't mean that your stalkers aren't idiots and continue to attack the bunkers, which is almost exactly what they're going to do, because stalkers are the descendants of dragoons. But there we see a kind of a defense. I mean, note though that especially when this one stalker gets killed off and Ganzi's reinforcements, this is still a little dicey as to who came out ahead or behind. We see in the food count 37 to 42. In the worker count, they both kind of have the same amount of workers. In terms of production, it's 3 gates. There's no extra robos going on. Over here in the base, there's just 2 barracks. So, what now? This is an absolutely weird spot to be in. Now, if you are a Platinum Leaguer, or even a Diamond Leaguer, wherever the hell you end up sitting, if you're like one of those people, like Gold, Platinum, where you have a reasonable grasp on the game, but then something weird like this happens and you feel lost, traditionally what I would say is that you have these broad stakes in the ground for just general senses of what you want to go for. Like, in my build, I want 4 gates, a robo-producing Colossus, and 2 bases. And then I expand and build 4 more gates and a Twilight Council. So that way, no matter what's going on, you always have this little point, this little convergence point you can be directed to. But if you're really good like these players, suddenly you can begin to make some interesting decisions, or you can make some significant mistakes when you are in these spots, if you are trying to wing it. Because what I always say is, what are your convergence points? Oh, is it 4 gateways? Like, let's say we're with Protoss right here. And, you know, if I were Protoss and I were talking to you, I'd be like, okay, well, our convergence points is 4 gates, a Robo, and a Colossus. So right now, I need to get a Robo, I need to get another gateway, I need to proceed by making a lot of probes. You know, it helps give you direction. But what I never did when I suggested that was ask, is that right or wrong or not? Never, ever did I do that. That's what we're going to do right here. What is a reasonable play for this Protoss player to do? He managed to stay alive, but he killed off a good amount of workers. What is he specifically really not going to need to worry about? Very clearly, he's suddenly not going to be worried about detection. Very clearly, he's not worried about getting detection, because this player just did a huge, giganto early attack with a bunch of Marines and Marauders and died. And Protoss, if he's reasonable, will suspect that there is an expansion command center down there. He likely should try to press for that a little harder. Obviously, he's going to be doing things like adding on some more probes, and all that's good and great and grand. And we're going to see the Terran is going to go ahead and, you know, begin getting combat shield and all the other associated upgrades. But Terran does something I don't quite like. Terran immediately begins getting a factory and begins getting these upgrades. These are, I think, pretty concerning moves, because there's really not that many units out right now for the Terran player. What we're going to see the Protoss respond by doing is, since Protoss doesn't really have any issues with detection, as long as Protoss just rebuilds a good amount of drones, excuse me, a good amount of probes, what we see Protoss do is immediately go for a 6-gate play. Immediately go for a 6-gate play. I love this little play by Protoss. I think this is brilliant. He's just going to flood with a ton of gateways and put on an immediate early push. Now, I want you to note the way that this push is looking right now. These gateways are half done, right? In a usual 6-gate push, you generally build your 6 gateways, then start flooding some units, and then go kill him. Might maybe get a full production cycle or 2 worth of units before you go attack. In this case, we're seeing Protoss build a couple units from 3 gateways and immediately mount a counteroffensive. In a general sense, whenever you end up picking off a ton of Terran units, he's really not going to have that many unless he went super crazy barracks heavy. In fact, the only thing that really poses a big threat is if he goes super crazy barracks heavy, or even gets some tanks up or something like that, and somehow ends up having enough to be able to defend this. But Protoss knows, given how much he killed off, that he can advance forward do this sort of push very comfortably. This is a great in-game decision that he made right now. This is a fun little kill sequence that he's just going to do, where he says, alright, well, I held off a huge early attack. So I am now going to make the approach and then just finish him off. And you see, Ganzi is following this little path blindly. Again, I always suggest following down the plan that you have. There's nothing wrong with sticking to it up to a point, right? You can't just say, but I followed my plan, period. There comes a point when you're getting up to the super giga high level of play where you have to start questioning, is this specifically what I need to do? You can plan responses, say, I want to go 2 barracks and fast starport ordinarily. But if I do an early push and die, then I have to make a whole bunch of barracks first. You can make that sort of plan beforehand. But I think Genius is doing an incredibly smart move here. Only now are his 6 gateways actually finishing up. If we actually rewind it back, we're actually at 11 minutes and 30 seconds. If we rewind it back a little bit, you'll see these warp gates have only just finished up. Only just barely finished up. MVP is being a little bad about his chrono boosting, but look at this very easy kill. With 2 barracks worth of stuff, Ganzi is in no condition to defend against a huge warp gate push. Warp it in. Yeah. And just go straight in for a kill. And this is not close. Despite the fact that these food numbers are very close, we can already kind of clearly see that this is not going too well for Terran. Already has all his SCVs on the other side. Zealots tearing things up. And of course, with another 5 Stalkers warping in. Easy peasy Febreze kill sequence. So the combination of these 6 gateways, makes a Hellion, that'll do it. The combination of making these gateways 4, 5, and 6, after this went down, very good play. Ganzi going straight for the starport after he lost all the units. Left him very vulnerable. Not the greatest play going on. So, in that circumstance, I really like this sort of cool in-game decision-making that we got to see pop out of MVP in a very clear way. Now, if I were the Terran player in this particular circumstance, I think it's pretty clear that I can't immediately go for this medevac pressure, because not only is it going to be delayed, but also I'm just going to have no units. It leaves too much of a big gaping hole. So what we're going to do is go into the next game on Tall Dream Altar that has kind of a similar feel, but in the reverse direction. I'm going to focus a little bit more on Ganzi's play in this game, because there's a lot that is not talked about in terms of opening build orders that really desperately needs attention. There's general things like, are you going to go 2 barracks and then a starport, or 3 barracks and then a starport? And the difference is 2 and 3. But there are suddenly becoming countless ways of players to go 3 barracks, 1 starport. Countless ways, and we're going to see Ganzi do a very cool style in this game. So we're going to talk a lot about this style, leading up to the point where there's going to be some variations and changes going on. So, we see him going for a relatively early expand. It's going to be some good focus in this early part on the detail. So immediately we don't see any supply depot anywhere around here. This allows him to build an expansion first. You can't both go back to Marine production and go back to SCV production at the same time. You cannot do both. Upgrade. You get supply capped too early. Most of the time players will go for SCVs first. And then sneak up and build a supply depot. Great. Now we can go back to building Marines. There's our second SCV coming. You'll notice that it all finishes before the supply depot. What does this mean if we only have 1 Marine early? Oh, how threatened we will be to an early Stalker. See in the top left, I have that Stalker highlighted, so we need to get some kind of early bunker down. We need to get a relatively early bunker. This looks earlier than it should be, but it's actually absolutely necessary if you're against a smart player, especially one who's going to be building a Zealot right off the bat. So Ganzi going to continue doing his thing. There's a couple of interesting timings. If you throw down 2 refineries right now, that is before you build this barracks, you build 2 refineries, and then you build 2 barracks, and then you build a factory. and then you go for the starport. It's weird. You get these two geysers really early before your barracks, and then you're getting a factory really fast. You can end up getting medevacs ridiculously quickly, still having a decently sized marine army, right? It's a little flip-flop on the style, but wow, that made them so much dirtier. So I'm doing some vacuuming outside. Great, that's one of my favorite things to do on stream. We're seeing Ganzi do the fairly standard build, 3 barracks up first. Little mixture. This is a very, very solid opening that we're going to end up seeing. A lot of those Korean pros have really refined this opening. By the way, see that little stalker popping up? That's why we need that bunker down right on time. A lot of Korean Terrans have really put a ton of thought into how to refine and pare down a lot of 3 barracks openings. We're starting to see some cool variety with some killer timings coming up. Startail's Bomber, or as I call him, Saint Bomber, doing some good stuff that I like a lot.
Upgrade complete.
So we now see it's going to be making more Marines. Good. Here are the 2 refineries popping up right afterwards. Getting a tech lab right away. Once again, if you built these 2 refineries before these 2 barracks, you can sneak in a factory. Let's just sneak that sucker right on in. And as we're going to see in the MVP Genius camp, he's going for an early expand. He's going for 3 gates. He's building a lot of sentries, as we love to talk about. And again, we're seeing Ganzi do a little bit of an interesting detour in his pre-planned strategy. We see this engineering bay going down. Now, this could partly be influenced by the early expand he saw, but this is actually a good choice to make just anyways if you want to. With this big influx of gas, we're not going to be getting a super fast starport. We instead are going to be getting super fast upgrades. There it is. There's the +1. Very, very helpful. So Ganzi is combining another key element here. Notice that his concussive shell just finished. And remember in that second game we saw, the previous game that we just got done watching, Ganzi pushed out right at the start of the game with 2 barracks, and he had 1 with a reactor and 1 with a tech lab. And he just moved out with 5 Marines and a Marauder. The Marauder had concussive shells, so that makes him really, really, really strong at picking off any sort of advance from Protoss. And here, we see the same thing, except there's a lot more Marines. Just the instant the concussive shell finishes, he's going to make a little bit of an early push. And already, we're starting to get into a situation where we're going to have to make some notable decisions. You can follow a blind path, move forward, hit here to freak the Protoss out as much as you can, and then pull all the way back home. But this leading SCV allows you to begin making big choices here. What did you see, right? What do I see? Am I comfortable advancing up here? I can see that this is almost full energy sentry here. These guys have a good amount. I see 3 zealots. And Ganzi smartly is going to pull back. And here's a factory coming down now, quite a bit later than your average factory. Generally is historically been coming up a little earlier. Hey, another big advantage of that early upgrade, we get ourselves a fast missile turret. And no, there is no destructible rock there, Ganzi. Good try. LOL. LOL. Excellent. And there's a factory going down with a reactor. Obvious good stuff. Very, very good stuff coming up. He's getting his upgrades. He's getting all of his fancy things like stim. But because of this little detour early on, now we get to go for an engineering bay. Everything that I have described thus far has been this pre-game decision-making strategy. This, I sat and played against a computer for 5 days, and this is the build I pooped out at the end. This amazing fast 2-2 upgrade thing coming up here. Will he begin researching it? He should. Unless I'm fast-forwarding through this improperly. Yeah, there we go. I remembered it. Great. And again, every good build should have its core. But what we're going to see in a moment, as I go to the every cam, Protoss has an attack plan. Protoss is actually going for, it looks like another 6 warp gate. But because there was not any gain of information early on, we're actually seeing this fast +2 armor. We're seeing fast zealot leg charge. We're seeing the Protoss do an economic, long-term focused play. This isn't just him blindly following some, or it isn't just him responding upon a failed attack to go all in. He just happens to have 6 gateways, but he has a lot more workers than he did in the previous game. He's at 42. So here comes the big push. And what we're going to experience now is yet another one of these, what do I do after this point kind of moments. Everything up to this point has been planned by Ganzi. The timing of these barracks, the timing of these 2 engineering bays, the timing of the starport, all of it been predetermined. Ganzi first does a very good decision. I like this, pulling all of his SCVs up to the front. And as we can see, he's clogging up a lot in here. And interestingly, Ganzi is going to be able to defend this. Barely, but he's going to be able to defend. He loses a lot of SCVs. We can see in the unit counting station just plummeting. These 2 medevacs. I really think that, you know, if Marauders get kill counts and stuff, medevacs should have a prevented from getting killed X number of times. That would make the commentator's life so easy and would make all people who don't have medevacs very angry. What's so great? He manages to defend an attack. I wasn't pleased with how long it took our Protoss player to depart. I really did not like that. But this is good. This is good regardless. However, we're in a weird spot. We have 36 workers. We have none here. We have a good amount here. Okay, we have all our barracks. We have our starport. We have our little engineering bays doing research. There are going to be some key decisions coming up in our gameplay, because I think that normally what you would be able to do, again, if you were like, yeah, I practiced against a computer for 5 days, is you would have already been getting your 3rd right now. You would have been getting all the add-ons to your barracks. You'd be getting reactors and tech labs. Maybe you would be gearing up to get a 2nd starport. What if he's going for Colossus? This sort of thing. You would really not be sitting here without an expansion. You would not be worried about, can I support all this stuff? And you, in a normal game, like in that first game we saw, remember the very first game, the one on Terminus? When did Ganzi attack? He attacked when his food was at 173, not at 73. And a lot of Terran plays lately are doing big pushes really late in the food count, like 150 something or something like that. But anytime you've killed off your opponent's army, that's a big signal to start being aggressive as a Terran player. A big, 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 big signal to be very, very aggressive. You can definitely regroup. You don't have to attack immediately, but if your Protoss opponent has no army, then Marines and Marauders operate very well in small numbers. They can micro easily, they can split apart, you can prevent a lot of damage from Zealots. It's not like with force fields where you can get giant handfuls of Marines and Marauders trapped. So we're going to see Ganzi move out to do a little bit of aggression. And I especially love that he is not getting add-ons on any of these barracks. He is not getting add-ons on any of them. Now, I paused it at this key moment because notice that the upgrades are going down right now. The upgrades are just finishing. He is just now going to be completing, or excuse me, just now going to be completing level 2. He just completed level 1. Now, what is the good decision to begin making here? We can expand. We can begin getting add-ons to our barracks. We can keep upgrading. We can go for ghosts. Go for another starport. We can keep making medevacs. What is the correct choice to do right now? What should you really be doing? What should you really be cutting? And this is one of, again, these interesting moments where if you're playing at your gold, platinum, diamond level, it's fine to just say, well, I'm going to just keep with my plan. I'm making Marines and Marauders and upgrades, and I'm expanding. But when you are against MVP Genius, who is known to just be good, you know, every now and again, he, you know, does things like almost win GSL and stuff like that. You have to be very careful with how you're going to pick and choose what you can do, because as we come back to the game screen, we're seeing here that Ganzi can't actually afford to build more medevacs. He can't do that, and he's about to wrap up on a production cycle here, so he can't build the medevacs and build units from his barracks, and he can't really have enough for upgrades. We don't see any command centers here, so what does he end up doing? First and foremost, I would like to note that most things can be broken down into, well, what can my opponent do about it now? For instance, my favorite is, if he has no units, What can he do about anything that I'm doing in my base, right? If he has no units, he can't kill my expansion. If he has no units, he can't kill me. If he has no units, he can't kill me and prevent me from getting upgrades. He just can't kill me right now. So I honestly think that at this point in time, focusing less on units is going to be the big essential key. Medevacs, I think he can do something about. One medevac? Well, he just has 6 stalkers, and he just moves them to the back of his base. And that's fine, because I don't have any units. I can't really kill him right now either. Harassment seems a little bit bad to start investing in. Moving this medevac down, this is fine because this medevac was already around. These Marines were already around. But I don't want to start getting more medevacs to do more drops at this point in time. Expanding and upgrades are going to be my choice for investment here. And anytime you get messed up a little bit in a game, or a lot, as in this case, Ganzi was messed up a lot, lost almost all his SCVs, this is the point where you need to spend the most amount of time really thinking about your subsequent decisions, because too often people will call tactical plays the in-game decisions, and that's it, right? Well, did I drop him here or did I not drop him here? Something like, where I'm positioning this medevac, people will be like, oh yeah, this is something I need to work on decision-making wise. Okay, that's true. But people don't think enough about what's going on at their base as a decision. They think about it as something they just planned before the game. A build order. This is the build order I'm doing. They put post-it notes on their monitor. They follow it to a T, and then all of a sudden when they get completely thrown off, it's kind of gross. So, yeah, sure, having these guiding principles I love talking about are fantastic, but make absolutely certain you think, where do I want my money to be going? I can't be doing absolutely everything. Ganzi's getting these 2 medevacs. I don't know how much I like that play. I do not know, because Ganzi is going to begin trying to put a little bit of pressure back on his opponent with a drop. That's fine, because his opponent doesn't have that many units. But yeah, again, look at this. Favoring these upgrades. I like that. Not getting these add-ons. That's great. Look, I even think he's actually going to do another round right here. Yeah, look at that. He still hasn't gotten out. He's just almost 14 minutes and only has built 1 add-on on his barracks the whole game. There he is. So doing a little drop, seeing small numbers when nobody really has any units. Drops can be kind of effective depending on what kind of units he has. But in small numbers, what do I love to say? In very small numbers, hey, Marines and Marauders work great, so you want to force conflict in these small numbers. And this is just a brilliant little play by Ganzi. This is just kick-ass. Look, he's going to create a little wall there. Yeah, alright. Nice. I want to come back briefly to this point in time, right after the big confrontation occurred. Yep, we see everything pulling back. To know when you are kind of screwed, like as a Protoss player, when you're suddenly really, really, really low on units because you've just lost a lot, almost always reasonable to go for lean unit mixes. Lean unit mixes. Whenever you're in a crazy situation where you might be on the verge of dying, you've just lost a lot of stuff, go for lean unit mixes. Zealots cost just 100 minerals. Very cheap, very lean. Templar, High Templar for Archons. Costs a lot of gas, virtually no minerals. Very lean. Not a lot of Stalkers. Not a lot of Stalkers. Look at them morphing. Zealots and Archons. Zealots and Archons. Very, extremely cheap unit mixes. Very lean. Always recommended. I'm going to come back now to the Ganzi cam, where we're now seeing this great little move. This nice little pick-off. Again, this timing of an attack might be something that you would not ordinarily do. But after you end up with some huge, weird, wobbly change in a game, like a big attack by Protoss that fails, you need to ask yourself, what's the most important thing for me to be doing back home with my buildings? What's the most important thing for me to be doing with these units? In this circumstance, in small numbers, Marine and Marauders work great. In small numbers, mech units don't work great. They really don't. I haven't seen Ganzi expand. I'd like to see him throw down a 3rd expansion. I'm not vomiting because he hasn't thrown down a 3rd expansion. I'm not freaking out about it. If Ganzi were going mech, and there was just this huge trade, I'd be like, Ganzi, go expand what you... Mech sucks in small numbers. If you have like 2 tanks and like 4 Hellions, and he has any number of gateway units, he kills you. It's when you get big numbers like that. So important to ask yourself whether your army works better in small numbers or big numbers. It's going to be very, very useful. I mean, medevac drop at the back, attack at the front, always going to be good. Here comes one of my favorite parts in the entire game. Watch this. Kills off the expansion. Protoss morphing more Archons. He kills the assimilators. And he goes home. Just heads on home. Heads on home. Now, to note, what's kind of happening in terms of Ganzi's hands is that they look a little autopilot-y. He's just building some Marines and Marauders. And then building medevacs. Hitting control group number 4, hitting control group number 5, 4 and 5, and back and forth and building as much as he can because he's in a battle. This is the sort of autopilot that is essential for macroing well in a lot of builds, but again, do we really want to be making these medevacs in these small numbers? I mean, in a typical game, in a very standard Terran vs. Protoss where no one's been affected at all, you want those starports producing non-stop, you want those barracks producing non-stop, you want those upgrades churning out non-stop. Gotta make some choices now, don't ya? Don't ya? Don't ya? No, don't go to that ending overlay. So I think this is quite a noteworthy thing to note. If you're a Protoss player and you were going Colossus gateway units, you might want to ask yourself, do I even want to be building Colossi at this point in time, or do I want to be building a lot of gateway units? You might ask yourself if it's time to start stockpiling a lot more sentries. Hey, look at this. This is a great time to be building a whole bunch of reactors. He just killed off an expansion of his. Oh yeah, look, he's taking an expansion. We just traded armies. There's really not much that our Protoss buddy can do offensively. Sure, he might have a couple of Zealots and Archons because he's going for a really lean unit mixture, but I like this overall play by Ganzi. Would have liked to see it a little sooner. Would have liked to see this while the retreat was going on, so that way right when he gets back home he can begin producing some stuff. But notice how essential these upgrades are. I mean, a lot of times you'll hear me say something like, yeah, you want these upgrades for a big attack, you know. It might be something like in a Protoss vs. Zerg, ooh, I need +1 to finish, so that way my Zealots can rip apart his Zerglings. Or it might be, oh, I'm against a Terran, I need my +1 armor to finish, so my Zealots are really good against his Marines. That's when you're getting the upgrade for that sort of purpose. These upgrades, though, these are actually a little different. These are, hell, if I can get upgrades, they're going to be good. When is a time when I'm allowed to do that? Well, this 3-2 upgrade for Ganzi was started, big thanks to that failed attack by Protoss. When the attack failed, Terran had plenty of time to opt for these upgrades. If the attack maybe went a little bit better, maybe Ganzi should have not gone for these. Ganzi might have been smarter to get these add-ons first, or get these barracks up first. Did he need to try to stay alive right now? I mean, let's say he held off that attack and got battered pretty hard, though, and Protoss was in a good spot and had a lot of gateways. Well, yeah, we got to add on a lot more barracks. We can't just try to sneak in these gateways. We might be on the risk of death right now. That's the mistake that Ganzi made in that previous game on Metalopolis. His whole attack died, and then he went for medevacs when he only had 2 barracks. Third expansion is up, and at this point in time, Ganzi is finally starting to stabilize. I mean, once you have all the add-ons and all the upgrades and you can afford non-stop medevac production, well, that's where you want to be in the first place. So of course you're going to do that. But for the last several minutes in time, Ganzi has been faced with some interesting decisions of what to do with his buildings. And we spent a lot of time talking about them. I give you the satisfaction of watching this army kill that army. This is the formal demonstration of the good decisions that came beforehand. So once again, just to refocus on this interesting moment that happened around the 11-minute mark. This is where all the interestingness happens. Yep, see right here is generally where everything is planned. Now on the minimap you're going to see a huge exchange go on. We're seeing a lot of stuff get made. In particular, we're seeing a lot of SCVs get unmade. They're getting deaded, getting killed, getting murdered. But then we see the very smart decision-making come up. No add-ons here. focusing on the upgrades because what else can our player do? Trying to force small exchanges. Poking up here with the easy option to retreat thanks to these medevacs and thanks to the stem. Very good. But again, I love these upgrades. Would have loved to see an expansion up early. Would have loved to see a few less medevacs. But I think that the second game is a pretty simple example of some in-game decision making that can happen where it's like, oh, if he lost all his stuff, could just go kill him. This last game, though, is a more complex example of why it's so important to really step in there and start digging deep when you end up thrown off in a spot. Again, we spent the most time in that game looking right after the attack failed. So because it's 8:01 p.m., we're going to go ahead and take some questions, so start asking your questions. I want to also note that Fun Day Monday for Monday, that's right, for the 4th of July, I will be doing a show while there are really a lot of houses exploding around me. Is submit games to Monday at day9.tv of you playing Starcraft II, the Brood War edition. I want to see some of you guys give Brood War a shot with your no multiple building select and having to put all your workers back to mine. Oh, it's going to be so great. I'd also like to note that the Day9TV voluntary subscription service that you can find at JustinTV/Day9TV/subscribe, I think that's right, now has PayPal enabled. 1,000,001 of you have been asking, when will PayPal be up? Well, it's up. And again, if you would like to subscribe, you may. It is $5 a month. If you don't, nothing changes. If you do, though, you get to participate in some fun, friendly subscriber mono battles, such as the ones that were just uploaded. Woo. So here we go. Here we go. Oh, by Kadrid. Oh, I haven't gotten a question from Kadrid in a while. Day 9, do you plan out possible detours in your StarCraft notebook, or are you always shooting from the hip when an opponent throws a curveball to your build? Do you have any tips for players struggling to adapt on the fly? I do take notes about general detours and stuff, but analyzing these sorts of situations honestly feels a lot like analyzing hands in poker, where, you know, when this huge attack happens and you end up living, you look at it and think really hard, what would I do if I were in that spot next time? And then you make a note of it, and you're like, yeah, cool, I know. And it might not happen for 800 games, and when it does happen, it might be kind of slightly different. But if you are training yourself to do an analysis after every single weird situation like that, you're going to develop an intuition that's going to help you tremendously. It's fine to delay that until you have good foundational fundamentals and stuff. You don't have to, like, try to cram all this stuff, all this learning into every game. But I thought that was pretty fun. Ha! Someone asked, when are the GeForce Pro-Am games going to be casted? I actually recorded for 5 hours today. So those videos will be coming up next week. For any of you who don't know what I'm talking about, go to GeForce.com to read about the GeForce Pro-Am. Woohoo! Let us see here. Let us see. All right, here's a great question that I just completely lost because my eyes just tweaked out. Where's Sentry? Sentry. There it is. From XOX Poet XOX. Day 9. Couldn't Protoss have gone for Sentry in a lean unit mix instead of Archons to get Force Field and make his Zealots more effective? I mean, absolutely. I mean, they're Zealot Archon, Zealot Sentry. I think both are great. The big reason to note why I think they're great is less about what units they are and more about what resources are being spent. Very, very cheap on both, getting a lot of units up. I think that a couple of Force Fields would have been awesome. Archons, though, are definitely ridiculously, absurdly good. Way better than I think people give them credit for, especially against Terran. I think if you actually threw in 2 sentries and used them for Guardian Shield, I think that would be really, really kick-ass. But a lot of Protosses are kind of the opinion, if I'm already having charge lots, I don't really need that many Force Fields because my Zealots are already going to be able to get up there anyways. And plus Archons don't even get slowed by concussive shell. So I can see arguments for both. I don't necessarily mind it. I would really hate if someone was like, well, why didn't you just get a bunch of Stalkers for Blink to deal with the drop? Because they're really, really expensive. Let's see here. Let us divine. Oh, here's a very clever question by Rogue Runner 14 who says, Would you make the same decision about attacking against Zerg? So I'm going to assume, because this is what makes the answer interesting, that the reference is to the Marine Marauders work well in small numbers. They absolutely work really, really well in small numbers, and I strongly recommend you trying to, again, be kind of aggressive with a Zerg if you can be forced into small numbers with Marines, Marauders, and Medevacs against them. It's going to work out well. But one thing that's so important to note is that against Protoss, you can almost always run away. Especially if you have Medevacs and Stim. You can almost always run away. Even in the early game without Stim and Medevacs, Zealots and Sentries walk at the same speed as Stalkers and Marines. So you can just get on out of there. Against a Zerg, he'll have Creep and Zerglings, which will always be faster than you no matter what's going on. So, in that circumstance, I'd actually kind of favor a couple more Medevacs if I was going to be aggressive. I don't see anything wrong, though, with sticking to the same logic of, if he lost all his units, he can't kill me, so I'm going to get some more upgrades and expand. But with the attacking, it's important to be a little bit more leery. A lot of times against Zerg, it's reasonable just to sort of move out and pull back again just to force some more units. So I'm going to take one more question. One more question. Question. Yeah. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. I'll just take a simple one from King Tut 11. Day 9, do you think Marine Marauder Medevac or Marine Tank is better versus Protoss? Definitely depends a lot on positions and circumstance, but I think both are flexible. But the reason I want to specifically take this question is to think, what if in this game, like let's say we come back to our key point, like around the 11-minute mark. Let's say we were at, right around here, right before this attack happened. And then the big defense happened and we were at the 12-minute mark with very little, right? But we were going for this Marine tank. What would we do different? What would we do different? Well, I would probably absolutely focus a little more on tanks and less on Marines and Marauders. If he can't kill me, then I can obviously expand. I can obviously begin getting upgrades. But can I really go attack him? Marines and tanks don't work so well in small numbers. They're kind of easily overrun, so if I were making more Marines, that would probably be because I'd want to attack him soon. But I don't really want to attack him soon with Marine tanks. I want to have a bigger, stronger, scarier army. So I like the idea of favoring tanks over the other units. Maybe if I was really committing to tanks, and if I have like 3 barracks in 1 factory, I might expand and get a second factory and then start adding on my other barracks. Like go real nuts with the tanks. Or I might go tanks and medevacs for drop and still favor less of the marining. But again, favoring more tanks and more medevacs. These kinds of things. It's important not to do some sort of big blanket statement and all that good jazz of how to exactly respond. I'm going to end the daily. You can tell I cast the GeForce games today. My voice is getting a little hoarse, but that's okay. I will drink water and I'll be good. I'm going to see you on Sunday. Go to NASL. Go to NASL.tv. I'll be at the finals. I'll see you there. Bye.